Welcome, everyone. My name is Mary Davis Fournier, and I'm a Deputy Director with the American Library Association's Public Programs Office. I'd like to thank you all for joining us for today's online learning session, Engage Teens, Art, and Civic Participation, an Introduction. The goal of this session is to introduce you to Engage as a programming resource and model for teen audiences that uses visual art as a springboard to civic engagement. This project has been funded by the Terra Foundation for American Art and the Searle Funds at the Chicago Community Trust, and we are grateful for their support. I'd also like to recognize programminglibrarian.org, our online learning session host today, and a wonderful resource for all things related to programming in libraries. Before we get started, I'd like to set out some basic information about communication in the online classroom. If you are experiencing technical difficulties, please send a private message to our technical support, Angela Hanshaw, describing your problem. To send a private message, click on the name Angela Hanshaw at the top of the attendees list and select Start Chat With. Also, please note that the session is being recorded and the archive will be made available at the programminglibrarian.org website. We will be collecting questions for the Q&A at the end of the session. If you have a question as we go along, feel free to type it into the chat box on the left-hand side of the screen, and our behind-the-scenes webinar staff will add it to the queue that presenters can review at the end when we have a pause for Q&A. Okay, so I'd like to just give you a bit of background on the project. It was inspired by the unprecedented participation and engagement of young people during the 2008 national election, and also by Picturing America, a landmark program that many of you may be familiar with, distributed by the National Endowment for the Humanities. Picturing America was distributed to more than 56,000 schools and public libraries all over the United States. So, is there a hiss? Let me know, Angie, in my chat box if there's something I can do to... Oh, she meant hi. Yay. Okay, so Picturing America was distributed to more than 56,000 schools and public libraries all over the U.S. And if you're familiar with Picturing America or a Picturing America fan, or if your library has put that amazing resource to work, feel free to applaud with the little applaud icon in the top navigation bar. So, Engage built on the Picturing America Art Initiative by developing supplemental resources that brought the artwork in the Picturing America collection and other American art images that were specifically selected for Engage to life, to teens, to spark important conversations about civic participation. The objectives for Engage are to inspire teens to think about the importance of civic engagement and to deepen teens' knowledge and appreciation of American art and its relation to American history and civic life. Its content supports critical thinking, service learning, American history, art history and appreciation, and other areas explored by teens, librarians, and educators. With this project, ALAs pulled together and provided image suggestions, a program format to follow, themes that provide entry to discussion, and suggested looking questions that will open up discussion of the artwork. And these can be used in their entirety, but they're also meant to provide examples to follow and inspiration, because you, as librarians, are free to design and structure a program series that best suits the needs of your young adult patrons and their interests. The pilot project was the first program of its kind for libraries targeted at teen audiences. It linked American art, history, and civic life in a programmatic format aimed at inspiring action, contemplation, discussion, and learning. ALA worked with the Chicago Public Library System to pilot Engage as part of their summer reading program in 2010, as well as with two Illinois public libraries, Evanston Public Library and Arlington Heights Public Library. During today's webinar, you will hear about 3 of the pilot site experiences with this project, and I will, at the end, walk you through the basics of the free downloadable resource PDF that will enable you to try the Engage resources with teens at your library. With that, let's dive into some of the pilot site experiences. I'd like to introduce our first presenter, Tom Spicer. Tom is the teen supervisor at the Arlington Heights Memorial Library. His favorite book of 2012 was Beautiful Ruins by Jess Walter. His favorite teen book of all time is Sherman Alexie's Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian. Mine as well. Tom's library is slated to open The Hub, a dynamic space for teens replete with MacBooks, a DIY makerspace, gaming area, and an insanely talented and funny group of teen staff to help kids get empowered, engaged, and energized in the Hub. Tom really took the Engage program and ran with it, and today he's going to talk with us about his program, including planning, recruitment, and lessons learned. We are so pleased that he could be here today to share all of this with us. And with that, I'm going to turn the mic over to Tom.
Thank you so much, Mary, and can everyone hear me? Okay, great. My name is Tom Spicer, and as Mary had mentioned, I'm the teen supervisor at the Arlington Heights Memorial Library. Arlington Heights is a suburb outside of Chicago. Okay, let's see here. Try turning up my volume. All right, is that better? Okay, great. So Arlington Heights is a community. It's a suburb outside of Chicago with about 80,000 people. And really, I was excited to get this Engage grant to offer these kind of dynamic programs at the library. And to be honest, I was a little bit nervous when I started hearing some of the kind of heady terms that were described by ALA about what they wanted to have accomplished. But eventually, you know, I ran with it, and the programs we produced here were kind of the opposite of the approach of let's buy some pizza for teens and show them a movie. And I think that's fine. I think that has its own benefits. However, the Engage program done really were a step up in terms of complexity, the amount of time and steps in organizing for the programs, and ultimately the impact on teens. So I'm very grateful to have been involved with this project. It was a blast, and I'm really looking forward to hearing your guys' questions after our presentations today. So let me know. And in my presentation, I'm going to be talking about just the importance of letting your own curiosity, your partner's curiosity, and the team's curiosity take over at the beginning of this project, and also about pre-planning and planning. Those are steps that are not to be skipped for this series of programs if you choose to hold them. I'm also going to be talking about how you can recruit teams to the Engage programs, and I will be mentioning like an outline of how a program at the library looked in terms of the format, and finally I'll be giving some just suggestions about what really worked for us. All right. So one of the things I did right out of the gates was I looked up the word engage, looked up the word civic. And engage is causing someone to become involved in a conversation or discussion. And I really like kind of just grounding myself in these two terms that kind of guided me as I was putting together these programs. And actually, I was at a digital media digital media learning conference in Chicago last weekend. And these teens who were a part of this program panel that I went to at the conference, they were involved in this in a similar type project, and they kept mentioning how important it was that they were a part of the conversation. And that's where I think this whole engage kind of model is important. Teens love to be involved in the conversation. Also, if you're interested, this image that you see here on the slide is one of my favorites from the series of Engage Artworks. It's Retroactive 1 by Robert Rauschenberg. The other term I looked up was it, because I really had no idea what it meant. I knew I drove one, but that was about it. So I looked it up, and it says, of or relating to the duties or activities of people in relation to their town, city, or local area. And that was also important for me because it kind of made more sense. And I felt like it was really important to start looking at using resources and partnering with people who knew about Arlington Heights and who were local. And the reason why that was important, because pre-planning and planning was super important. And I ended up partnering with 4 local teachers and artists who I could easily set meetings with at the library where we would discuss what we wanted to accomplish with the Engage programs and also costs, details, how we would into these involve kids in a conversation with. So I'll go on from here. I want to mention the importance of planning for your programs. Because for me, I met with these 4 local artists and teachers, and you know, each programs we were putting together, thinking about putting together, we're going to meet multiple times at the library and for an hour and a half long. And to think about meeting for an hour and a half with teenagers and making sure that they are engaged, that's a considerable amount of planning that goes into that. So that was super important that we had pre-planning and that we were using local resources who also were more tapped into our teams as well. So if anything, do not skip the pre-planning step. And I know one of the things I wanted to address too is you start to create these kind of intricate programs based on these artworks. How then do you engage teams? How do you get them to come? And my answer is twofold. You should get in with the schools. That is my kind of highest suggestion. Involve teachers, meet with them, let them know what you're planning. Use them as a sounding board, and that will pay dividends for you because they are a direct line to teens and what their lives are like. And I think that's an essential step. In fact, one of my suggestions would be is to just track with them. Work with at least one local teacher and have them run your engaged programs. This is also huge because teachers can be a huge emotional piece where they will can directly promote to the teams in the classrooms. And she partnered with 2 different teachers, a middle school teacher named Trisha Fugelstad and a high school teacher named Amanda Thomas. And if you see the image right now, Trisha Fugelstad did a value drawing program where kids would do value drawing of themselves, and then with mixed media collage the background of their artwork with images that reflect what they value. And you see, we blew them up and made them these massive pieces of art that we laid in the library, which was cool. So that's one tip. Get involved with tools. And another tip, and my second high suggestion for teens to come to these programs, is to actually ask the teens themselves, wow, what a concept. But your teen advisory boards, your teens who you see after school, when you're visiting this, ask them about, them as a sounding board about your ideas and what might work and what might appeal. You want to get that sense, like when you suggest an idea and the kids have a reaction that's like, yeah, you should do that. That's the kind of reaction you should look for, and you have it. You're going to be cooking with gas, so to speak. So I wanted to also mention how just one engaged program library looked in terms of an outline. And here's what we would do. With the first 15 minutes of any engaged program, especially if it was our first meeting, we would have the kids just kind of look at and ingest the art. And myself and the presenters had pulled out a few pieces of art that spoke to us or the presenter, and we would just let the kids look at it. And then with the next 5 minutes, we would talk about that artwork's civic or historical significance and context. And then we try and guide a discussion about how it could relate to the teens' lives. And after that, the presenter would demonstrate their mastery and then give techniques and tips and strategies about whatever artwork they were producing. And then finally, and most importantly, I think, we would have a participatory element where the kids would actually create something, make something, shoot photography of something, write a story. And in fact, this author here is named Charles Dickinson, who's a local author to Arlington Heights, who is featured in the O. Henry short stories multiple times. And what he did was he pulled a few images from the Engage series of artworks, including this county election of 1852 by George Caleb Bingham. And he wrote a short story based on this image. And I'll never forget when he started reading it, booming voice, and the kids were completely enraptured about this short story that was produced by this author who was really moved by the piece. And then what we asked the kids to do is pull their own most the most spoke to them and write a short story. One thing I wish I would have done, giving them a little bit more scaffolding or guidance about maybe gearing the short story towards like civic kind of issue in their lives and having the short story reflect that. But I didn't, and they were given free creative rein, but they came up with great stories. Now, I also wanted to just, at this point, throw out some recommendations, some suggestions. And really, we have to engage teens with digital media. It's such an opportunity. And the photography high school teacher I work with, what we did was we pulled out all the photographs in the artwork series and described them, let the kids look at, and then we gave the kids cameras to go out and shoot lives for 2 weeks and then return the cameras. And they love that. They love the fact that they could produce media. And with the proliferation of smartphones, tablets, it's really just an amazing opportunity. Also, I would say engage social media. So after all of our programs where these different artworks were produced by these teens, we ended up promoting with social media, especially a Facebook page and our blog. And that was important. I feel like we would have even blown it up bigger by using Tumblr and Twitter and Instagram. But we weren't using those at that point. At least my library and I were not. This was the most important thing for me in terms of impact on teens, was displaying their creations. Blew up their artwork whenever we could. We shared it as much as we could. The fact that they were allowing this avenue for self-expression was huge, especially for teens. We got great feedback from that. This again is a shot of the artwork that we would display in the library. And it's just great to see what the kids could do. You know, there's so much talent out there, and this Engage program tapped into that. This was a display that we had from photography program, Amanda Thomas, and we had 2 of these display cases where our graphics department blew up the pictures on foam board and display them in these cases, and the kids would come in, show off their works to their parents, to their friends, and they were pretty much glowing at that point when they would be doing that. And that was just really great to see. I felt like we were tapping into something there. And now I'll do some engage don'ts. One thing you don't want to do is misspell don't on your engage presentation. And also say be careful about how intricate you make your programs. The artist I worked with was named Violet Jaffe, and we ended up doing a woodworking program based on producing a piece of art with craft model supplies that reflects over an obstacle based on Martin Puryear's ladder for Booker T. Washington, which she demonstrated and talked about to the kids. But we had 2 kids show up, and we might have had 10 or 15. Kids had a great time, but I feel like just be careful about the overreaching in some ways. And I would also say don't play it safe. To engage the kids, take a respectful and calculated risk, and let your inspiration kind of guide you. Last thing I'll say is this engage program has really challenged me into like teen department. And I know in the past year I've partnered with our youth commission of Heights, and we put on a teen job fair at the library on March 9th that had 266 attendees. And it was a teen job fair only, and I don't think I would have ever put that had not had this kind of opportunity, just thinking about engaging teens and civic duties and civic issues. Also, my teen advisory board in the past year has started to actually complete those projects, including on April 6th, we are helping to run a library-wide autism awareness day where the teen advisory board high school volunteer members will be volunteering their time to run these programs throughout the day here at the library. So my thanks to Engage for just making a really dynamic series of programming opportunities in public libraries. Thanks, guys. Sorry about the issues.
Thank you so much, Tom. And I should ask, since we have had some issues, can everyone hear me, first of all, still? Good. Tom, thank you so much for sharing that with us. And as I was listening, I was going to say, you mentioned at the media conference you were at this weekend another program that was similar. And if you have the name or the link for that program and want to post it in the chat, I'm sure some of the participants today would be really happy to know about it too. I sure would. And it sounds like we're going to need another webinar on the autism program that you're creating. It just sounds fantastic. So I want to move us to the next section, the next pilot project that we're going to share today. Nanette Freeman, who's a librarian at the Portage-Cragen branch of the Chicago Public Library, as well as one of the pilot sites, was unable to join us today, but she graciously gave us permission to share aspects of her project with you that we thought would be useful for this webinar. So I'd like to briefly highlight some of her ideas and approaches and strategies at this point. So Nanette, she did some great programs that carried a theme of engaging teens with their neighborhood by using found objects to create art. She arranged for the teen artwork to be displayed in the storefront window of the branch library so that it spoke to the neighborhood. And here you can see a collage created by of the dove by Romare Bearden, which is an image included in the Growing Up theme, and then below creations, found object creations and collages, and there's sort of a found object bug in the window that were created by the teens as part of this. They also recycled and used dolls as objects for self-expression. She also recruited artists who worked with recycled objects to present to teens and talk with them about artistic expression with multiple media. And she also asked the teens to bring in artwork outside of the Engage project, project resources, artwork that spoke to them. I should also mention at this point that this project was part of Chicago Public Library's summer reading program, and Tom talked about working with teachers. Nanette, and Marcus may mention this too in our next presentation, she worked with existing library teen groups at her branch library and also contacted local middle school and high school service learning coordinators in Chicago Public Schools before school let out for the summer to recruit teens to the program during the summer. And feedback we received from the Chicago pilot sites was that service learning credit opportunities were huge motivators for teen participation in these programs. Another thing that Nanette did was she helped the teens be the experts. She asked teens to pick images from the project and research them in the context of the theme and present them to their peers. I was present for one of those programs, and it was fantastic to see how much ownership the teens had over the images they selected and their presentations. Their cumulative project was a library mural. As you can see, they worked with hands-on with lots of art supplies, and they had the space for that as well in that branch at every convening they had with teens. Nanette also brought in video content to share with teens to help them consider worlds outside their own. The documentary on the screen now is about a blighted neighborhood in Detroit where a citizen-led and neighborhood-embraced art project using found objects called the Heidelberg Project. The debris of the neighborhood really was the found objects. And this famous object led to community engagement, beautification, and the first stages of renewal for that neighborhood. And it was, I was also present for that session, and it was really something to see with these Chicago teens. They had a fantastic discussion afterward. So our gratitude to Nanette for providing us with those images and her notes and perspective on her experience. We're deeply appreciative of the work she did with this project. So now I'd like to introduce our next presenter, Marcus Lumpkin. Marcus is a library associate and mentor in U-Media at the Chicago Public Library. He also leads the ULit magazine workshop in U-Media, where teens create and publish an online magazine. We've asked him to share some of the terrific work that teens did with the Engage project at the very special U-Media Center at Chicago Public Library. And with that, on over to Marcus.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for introducing me. I definitely want to, and also we participate. Much better, clear. Okay. Let's. Okay, how about that? Am I sounding clear now? Some walls or something. Okay, great. Thank you guys. I just wanted to start off by giving a description of U-Media and then actually describing how our program went on site. We did, and her team, they visited. And I do want to talk for a few of the obstacles we had, season and program, and of course talk about success stories in the program. And I'm hoping that slides will help give a description of what won during the summer, and how the Engage really contributed to the culture and workshopping goals of U-Media and to engage in program So UMedia is a space down in the Chicago Public Library, located in the Harold Washington Library. We are a school team space. We also our library. We see teams from around the local area. We see a lot of teams. We have a few high schools, Jones and Mushin, Walter Payton High School. We see a lot of local teams, and so we open. Hours are like 1 to 8 o'clock. We open up, teams pour in, and they pretty much use this as a local branch library. The kicker is we offer in the space and have library staff and mentors who actually teach workshops out of the space. So the workshops like graphic design, photography, audio production. I'm actually sitting in a little studio right now, talking to you guys. Even everything from podcasting to game. So, you can actually come in if you're not a teen. Can't hang. We're lucky because we're funded, of course, the Foundation and the Pearson Foundation, and of course Chicago Library sort of came together to create. So it gives us a little freedom, who we can pay the most attention to, but patrons can come in and browse for young adult fiction inside the space. And so, like the workshops we offer are similar to the program that we were offered, Engage program. We actually lead Ulit magazine. There's a cover right there of Ulit magazine. It's an online publication. They help produce the work, they take the photos, they write the essay, and they create a magazine. Try to put it out quarterly. It's difficult, but we put out a magazine quarterly. It's actually issue. Of course, that's something I can show you. We host all types of workshops and events, one-off programs in the space, and things like homeschool group. Today we actually saw a cooler that one of our library actually lists projects around the homeschool group. Library games also a workshop that our head librarian leads, and it's a group of teens who basically talk about gaming industry in the library space, and they record a podcast in this very studio that I'm speaking. It's a great workshop. Lyricist Loris Wednesday night have an open mic, which is huge, one of the largest teen events in the Chicago Public Library. The teens basically get talk microphone. They love it, and they also they much perform every Wednesday. We had teens who actually perform louder than a bomb, and 1 year back. So it's a big of our space. I the question: is there a digital format for the magazine? We publish issue.is, and it's Ulit magazine. You can find it there. I'll put a link in there when I get this chance. But it's a great magazine, and it pretty much teams are doing in space. Just to give you an idea of what the space is like, and how the program, how we sort of came to embrace the program in the space. The facts about we had decided to do 5 sessions, and we also thought it'd be good to hold it for 2 hours session. I heard Tom mention like the 1 hour and 30 minutes, and definitely having it's important to be around those 2 hours because teens do wing and they get bored quickly. So having planning is really important, and I appreciate Tom highlighting that. We had it 2 hours to make it over a month, like a period of a month. So we had 5 teams every session come in, and we wanted to really the ideas to really stamp the program with the idea. We thought to make it the teams would try to to do as many sort of one-off jobs within the program. Could. And so we definitely thought what point of the program. I appreciate the training that we during the age program. We were actually able to visit to and talk to professionals about how to describe art, how teens engage, and really critically discuss art. I think one of the sort of most important of the program that we were able to offer to the teens. We sat down and we actually had talk about the purpose, meaning, and impact of art. As you see at sort of top corner, we looked at Shepard Fairey's Shepard Fairey, his work and iconic picture of Obama, and we talked the images that how it affected things. Oftentimes with classic famous works of art, teens have like a secondary opinion about it, or it's just sort of what they told about the art and things like that they just spit out to just get the grade in the classroom. And we really want in the space and within this program as well, we really wanted the teens to take a second and reflect about the power behind art, and we were able to do that with some activities that really focused on our teens' reflection and their response to the art. So what do? We actually had a few activities that involved a show and tell session. We actually asked our teens to share their favorite work of art. We had some teens actually show some of the art that was already in the packet that we received from the Engage program, like the Shepard Fairey work, and someone showed Banksy. I don't know if you're familiar with the movie Exit Through the Gift Shop. We talked about that and saw clips and such. We had a share out session, and it was important to us to really, from the start, make the teens aware that this program in our space, the Engage program, was there so that they could discuss what they felt about art, and so they really led the tempo during the program. We of course displayed the images. We had the sessions where we allowed the teens to really share their ideas about it in creative ways. And during the next few slides, I'll show you what tools we use to do that. And of course, we did remixing of art. I really liked Tom's the images that the teens, that their patrons did, and the displaying of their work. We did that as well. We offered an opportunity for our teens to show to reinterpret the art that they liked. So we had like a remixing session where our teens actually took a famous work of art and put a spin on it on their own. And of course, one of the other highlights of our project, we took a field trip. We actually took 2 field trips during our sessions. We because we were so close to the Art Institute, we allowed our teams to. We planned to visit there and asked our teens if they would do some photo documentary. And actually, the pictures that you see that I'm displaying are pictures that our teams actually took during the field trip. So during the sessions, we used some tools. In UMedia, we really like to use tools that we think are a bit more accessible to teens. We do have scanners and Macs and such, and SLR cameras and stuff. But we know that teens don't have all of these things at home, and so we want to use tools that can allow them to sort of inch up to higher level tools. So as you see, there's a list of a few open source applications that you can use. Pixlr, we use that in our UMedia workshop. We use that. Actually, I don't think we used Pixlr during the Engage workshop, but we did use Aviary, which is an image editing tool. Wordle, we use that to create a word cloud that to gather images of words around different word art. Prezi is a tool that you can use. Oftentimes now our teams use that. I don't actually think it was I didn't know about it then, but that's a tool. And MS Paint, of course, which is on your desktop. And the point about that is that there are tons of tools that you can use that you'd be surprised that really work well. Our graphic design mentor in the space actually uses MS Paint to do the same sort of remixing idea. Of different images, and to just start off using things like the Wacom tablet, which is a tool for to get a sharper image when you're creating things digitally. So we try to use what we can. And we know that teams have some of the tools at home, and just to extend the project, of course, outside of the four walls of UMedia, and we try those things, and they worked. In terms of the outcomes, as you see, there are more images of what the teams took. Our teams are our teams are really, really talented, and when we offer programs, when we're able to offer programs like the Engage program, they dive right in, and it really just takes a little bit of flexibility and in general, enthusiasm about the programming, and the teams usually run away with it. And you'll see like the photography, the picture in the top right hand corner is images that our teams took during our visit to the Art Institute. The bottom image is actually one of the projects that our teams created around the Civic Engage program. He actually sort of remade a label for a water, and there's actually a video that I've sent a link to at the end of this that gives more detail about what project he did around that. And you also see there are pictures of some of the teams from the poetry group. They created projects around the Engage project. You see some of the displays of the images in the back, some of the artwork in the back, and they actually created poetry around. They chose an image and created poetry to represent that image, which came out really well. And of course, when we were at the Art Institute, we were lucky to see actually the creation of a piece of art. I think this is Circle with the Band. It's Sol Lewitt. You can sort of look that up, but he was actually putting that piece together at the Art Institute, and so it was a great experience being able to sort of get out of the library, if you can. We of course ran into obstacles, and we tried to sort of plan to prevent teams from becoming bored, and it happens inevitably. One of the difficult things were getting teens to connect to the ideal of civic engagement. The teens came in and they, we gave them, creative flyers and told them about the program and did a great job at describing what would happen during the program, but really grasping the idea between the power of art and then civic engagement was one of those things we had to really work on, and I think some teens got it. I do believe some teens have difficulty with understanding how the art and civic engagement can sort of, go together. But overall, they got it. They got the idea that, art has power behind it and it's useful for, taking back to their communities and doing something with it. In the same way that it was difficult kind of keeping teens engaged in the end, we tried to create one-off workshops, to have each workshop stand alone, so that our workshops would sort of be powerful and would build on each other. We wanted to make sure that teams, if they couldn't come to all the sessions, would still feel sort of welcome to the rest of the sessions. And of course, completion of projects. We actually had about 6 projects done. There were more than 6 teams throughout the entire program, but it's difficult getting teams to get teams to see things through the end, especially with other summer projects going on. But the highlights, there were a lot of highlights during the workshop. I really like really like to point out this image of whirligig by I think it's something Memkus. I forget the name. We actually, the adults had a great conversation, and which trickled down to the teens about patriotism. It's Frank Memkus. This sort of over the top image of rotating whirligig or whatever, and it really gave us pause and made us reflect on sort of what was patriotism to us, because obviously this was meant to have some sort of effect on people's ideal about patriotism. And so we actually had a pretty deep conversation, and so did our teens. Our teens actually talked about art. Now, of course, that's not a remarkable statement, but if you really of the images that they see every day. They're video games, they're videos, they're all types of media being thrown at teens. And to get teens to recognize the power of things like murals or the power of art, that's not animated or art that is, it's an awesome thing. And we had teens actually do that during points in the workshops, and I think that was a point towards critical thinking. We in our workshops in
Thank you so much, Marcus. I really appreciate your including all those links. Those who are listening who don't have their own UMedia or reading lab in the library can still utilize their resources. That's great. So I'm going to move quickly. As I mentioned at the top of this session, we have built the images or links to the images, the tools and format suggestion, as well as overviews of any of the pilot site programs, downloadable PDF that can be printed in full color, black and white, in your preference. It's meant as an overview resource and a programmer's guide rather than a piece of to participants, and has a number of interactive elements. So the art images presented as part of Engage have been grouped into 5 themes: American dreams, community, growing up, participation, and signs and symbols. And to make these about 70-page guide use, a fully functional navigation bar runs along the of the screen so that you can jump from theme. And if I could find the picture quickly on, I would be showing it to pointer. But I can't, so it'll be along the bottom. The program model involves moving progressively through these themes. During more meeting scenes, presented issues are identified and discussed, and these sessions are linked to artistic and civic activities related civic engagement. What we learned from the pilot libraries was how flexible the resources were. Some was one of the themes and created an entire program series around it. Others shuffled the images around and repositioned them to suit their program vision. Other pilot libraries chose to use some images they felt their teens would be most responsive to over others. What we found was that all of it worked. What we heard from the librarians and the teens was that the Engage program made them feel differently about art and about their community. At the end of the program, teens said they felt they were more likely to participate in an issue-related activity in their community. So from ALA's perspective, those findings were significant, and they've, I have to say, influenced many of our programs at the public preface going forward. So in the guide, each theme has been broken out. Now look, I'm going to take you briefly through participation. Each theme contains an introductory contextual image and suggested opening exercises and icebreakers, followed by resources for every image. Each image on the work of art, information on the artists and the images depicted, and relevant information that will help you link the artwork to discussions of civic participation in today's world. They also provide looking questions created by art education experts to help with discussion of the images and to help unbundle its contents and implications with teen audiences. The images in this selection and other selections range from the painting we just looked at and that Tom mentioned, George Bingham's, depicting elections in the mid-1800s, to stirring images from the mid-20th century, such as this panel from Jacob Lawrence's Migration of the Negro series, to iconic images such as the World War II era We Can Do It propaganda poster, to familiar and powerful images such as James Corelli's photograph of the Selma to Montgomery March for Voting Rights, which many of these images compare and contrast with others and work with others, such as this look then into other voters' rights movements in American history, providing perspective over time on both the movement and the evolution of the artistic medium of photography. In this slide, this New York Times photo depicting women in a suffrage parade in the early 20th century is one of the many photographs that capture real people participating in significant events that influenced American history. The final image in this participation theme is Winslow Homer's Veteran in a New Field. It's an image from the Picturing America collection, as are many of them, including the Selma to Montgomery March. I should pause here to say that some of the images in the Engage collection were unavailable to reproduce in this guide due to copyright restrictions related to the internet distribution of this guide. However, the same background information, looking questions, discussion questions, activity suggestions are provided for these images, and the images themselves are named as well as their artists, and they're readily available for viewing via basic internet search. One example of one of those images that Marcus mentioned in his presentation was the iconic Obama Hope poster image created by Shepard Fairey. Essentially, we just couldn't put it in this guide, but it is definitely out there. The guide provides sample program templates or a program template that recommends program time, structure, and other suggestions. As you heard from our presenters and their experience, libraries are of course welcome to modify and play with this program format to create programs that will engage, no pun intended, your teens. This guide and more information on the pilot project can be found at programminglibrarian.org. And I'm going to give you here the direct URL, but don't go there now. Because it's an interactive PDF with many components, we're working out a few of the interactivity bugs right now, and it will be available on the site and at this URL in early April. And we will email everyone registered for this webinar to make sure that you're alerted the minute it is downloadable. So before we go to questions, I should mention that we're also offering these 2 more webinars in this series that drill down much more on aspects of the Engage project. The first one on April 17th is going to delve into how to present and look at art. And Sarah Alvarez, the amazing director of teacher programs at the Art Institute, will discuss how to ask looking questions and frame issues and activities. And she'll be joined by Brandy Morrill, an engaged pilot librarian at the Chinatown branch of Chicago Public Library. And then on May 15th, that session will be about creating local issues-based programming, and it'll focus on issues-based discussions for teen audiences, tying it into the engaged resources. Adam Davis, director for the Project on Civic Reflection and an advisor to this project, will walk participants through how to identify local issues that are relevant to teens, with teens, and then identify issues or images to then illuminate those issues and discussion. And he'll be joined by Christy Chandler Stahl, who was with the Evanston Public Library during this project and is currently with Gail Borden in Elgin, Illinois, who will share her experience with the pilot. So these webinars are really free and accessible, and they're going to offer great advice to just putting these resources into play from the librarians and the architects of the project. So we really hope you can sign up. So right now, I'm going to pause for a few questions that you all have been very helpfully tracking throughout our chat, and feel free to keep adding them. We'll keep culling them for a Q&A session. And I'm going to leave this to Angie, I think, in terms of directing us how we should handle the mic during this section. Am I to be saying these questions, or do our presenters have asked? Enough to each presenter, and then just hand the mic over to them. I think that'll work best. Okay, and I'm going to skip in front and just say to Anne-Marie Merchant, who just asked how much the engagement materials cost. Everything, the guide is the material, everything else is on the web, and this is all free, free and downloadable and accessible. Really a resource. So, okay, I'm straight into questions that everyone has been very patiently wait for. Okay, so Marcus, or rather Tom, I'm sorry, Tom, one of the participants wanted to hear you just a little bit more briefly about the makerspace and how they can be used to engage teens generally.
Sure thing, I can address that. How's my volume? Okay, so the DIY space we're putting together in the hub to engage teens. Well, I mean, what we're trying to do is have them learn a hands-on skill, and so I feel like it's going to be an easy sell. Honestly, we're having a bunch of DIY projects that are even dropped, so it's not going to be like you have to register for this program. You could come and start making something, and I feel like that's excellent, especially if the teens are coming from a class setting where they're just like sitting all day and getting information kind of spoken to them. Here they're going to be, on their feet. They're going to be working with tactile materials. At least that's what we're envisioning. Kind of modeled this in a way after Oak Park Public Library's idea box. So I feel like the fact that they're going to be working with their hands, that they're going to be working with kind of tactile materials, that it's engaging right then and there. It's a little bit different than what we try to do with this age project where we would engage them silly. We're just trying to engage them anyway with this makerspace.
Okay, great. Thanks, Tom. So the next question, there is a question about there being a question, it's a digital format of your magazine, which I think was answered. But the other question is, Mark, can you talk how you get teens involved in your magazine? And then also answer what the goal for your Engage program, what was the goal for speaking to what you wanted your to see or respond to?
Okay, well, the ULIT magazine, we meet every Tuesday, Tuesday at 4:30, and we have a group of teens who, are the editorial staff. So there are two fronts that teens can participate. They can participate in the editorial process, which is long and also, but it's kind of hard work for our teens, or they can just simply submit the magazine. If you flip through the magazine, you'll see the submission stuff, but magazine@gmail.com. We take submissions at address. And so our teens pretty much, kick out a magazine quarterly. We gather content from the workshops and programs in the space or special projects they're doing, and try to organize it and format it in a magazine, and it adds up pretty great. And there's some back issues you guys can check out. We're one now. If I hopefully right, the learning goals or things that I wanted the teams to pick up and latch onto in terms of learning workshops. I to definitely hold to the goals of engagement, and definitely connect teens to civic engagement through the that we. I think they did that. I think our teams really successfully understood how art could spur them to do things civically, especially the teams in our space who are involved in the arts and involved in other programs and understand like the impact of art around them. I think in general, the teens understanding sort of, the hard and fast connection between art and civic engagement, took a little explanation, but overall, and I'm hoping you'll get a chance to watch.
All right, so I wanted to just add on to what Marcus was saying, although he said it really well. But just to address Allison's question, what do we want to see? I think we want to see these artworks that are included, and I feel like what a great kind of exercise would be is to show the teens like all of the art and have them pick out the ones that they're curious about, and then maybe develop some programs about, how that image can be applied to their current life, their current civic life, and then have a discussion with them and have them see how, they can influence their own civic life if they're a participating member of, society and their town or their city. But really, I think it's seeing those pieces of art and seeing how they're connected to like civic engagement. It's really fun. It's a challenge. That's where you as a librarian or someone who's organizing this has to offer some scaffolding and just kind of guide them through, offer context about and teaching sessions about where these artworks came from and what the issues were back in the day that made them important, and then discuss with the teens how they can then maybe apply that artwork or a different artwork to their own lives. But it's something I'm passionate about as well, but I think I just wanted to add that on.
Thank you so much, Tom. I think that we are already running about 7 minutes over. I think we're going to need to wind up. I do want to say that, what Tom mentioned in terms of providing scaffolding, I'm very hopeful that the resources that we're able to provide in this PDF and the background and the paintings provide some of that. And I know the incredible skills of you all as librarians will also add to that. I would be remiss. Well, first I want to really just truly thank our presenters, Tom and Marcus. Thank you enough for sharing your experiences with us today. And I also want to thank Nanette Freeman, who's not able to be here in person, but contributed invaluable experiences and creative energy to helping us develop this resource. And I would ask everyone in this room to please keep in touch and let us know what you think. We will let you know when the PDF is up. We want it to be usable and relevant resource. We'd love to hear how you're using it and how you might find it helpful. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention the two events on our screen. One is a plug for pre-conference we're organizing at the ALA annual conference, and I realize most people in this room are YA librarians, but for those of you who are also interested in serving and expanding services to aging populations in your communities, the 80 is the new 30 is sort of a mini pre-conference, and it is just going to be this amazing high energy event about also linked to art, about applied art and approach for creative age for communities. And then we also have a really fun fundraiser for our Cultural Communities Fund, which supports these webinars at the Roby House, Chicago, which all that information is on the website, and registration is available through the annual conference. I hope to see many of you all in the upcoming webinars that are related to Engage. I hope to recognize names there. I hope you will join us. And I, again, thank you all so much for being such a patient audience with our technical difficulties, such a receptive and dynamic audience for our presenters. So thank you all again.